This is the Well Within podcast for women who are tired of managing, striving and second-guessing and are ready to reclaim their power. I'm Jackie.
And I'm Ellie. We're a mother-daughter helping women reconnect to their innate power, even when life is chaotic, challenging and uncertain.
This isn't another self-improvement podcast. It requires readiness and willingness to go to the edge of something different and new, and to notice what's hiding in plain sight.
This space invites you to return to who you were before the world taught you who to be.
And reconnect to your well within.
Because when women reclaim their power, anything becomes possible.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Well Within podcast. Today we are just reflecting on the conversation we had with Marie Arymar last week, which was a delightful conversation. It was nice to catch up with her again. Yeah, and I think first of all, I'd like to give a shout out to parents that we were all doing our best given what we were thinking at the time, given what was going on within us at the time. And yeah, I think what we mean by that is that, you know, until we kind of realize where our experience and thought and, you know, start understanding where that is coming from, all we've got is what we think is going on. And we are reacting to life, to people, to things, to our children, thinking that, you know, they are causing that reaction and that experience to be good or bad, whatever we want to label it.
Yeah.
And yeah, because when we kind of, you know, when we've got this child, we've had this baby and we're doing our best to steer them in the right way and make sure they've got enough and they've got everything that they need to live a full life, the best that we can give them, the best education, it's all about us, really. It's all about all about us, not really about them. I mean, they obviously, you know, sort of just go along with it because, yeah, like when we were a child, that's all we just learned to adapt and learn to kind of do what we were told and do what our parents sort of thought was best for us. And so we keep replicating that with our, you know, own children until something, if ever, something else sort of we start to question actually what is going on. And that can usually happen when we keep coming up against something that feels really hard or challenging. Maybe we've got a young teenager or that sort of, obviously that age where, you know, a teenager is finding themselves, testing out boundaries, etc. Maybe they're not doing things that we agree with. They're testing us, and it's really easy to take everything so personally. It's that we have failed as a parent in some way because they're not behaving the way that we have, you know, told them they should be behaving.
Mm.
And you can see that it's not just in parenting, it's in business, it's in, you know, if we think that somebody else should be behaving in a way that we think they should be because it's affecting us, it's impossible from there to change anything. And yeah.
And I think that's the thing. It's like what we're saying, how this conversation, it doesn't impact just your parent-child relationship or your relationship with your parent. It impacts all areas of your life, including your work, your relationships. And what we always like to say is that, and talk about, is that this is sort of a universal understanding, and a client can come to us with thinking that they just kind of want to, they've got a challenge in their relationship or something that they're wanting to support sorting out or whatever. And then the same, it's literally, yes, the content of what we're talking about is the relationship, and that's kind of what we'll be exploring. But then the thinking and the field work and the getting curious and the questioning can be applied to literally any area of your life. It's like, no matter what the content is, the content doesn't matter, because it's where it's coming from, and how you're showing up in relation to that. And this is what we talk about, the ripple effect that this has on every single area of your life, even though it's not like you're intentionally looking at that area, which I think is, yeah, definitely something I've noticed so much in my life, for sure.
Yeah. And I know, Marie was talking about how a parent might reach out to her saying that they're really struggling with their son or their daughter. Could you come and help us, help them? But it's initially kind of seems to be that the parent wants the child to be sorted out. It's like you send your dog away to boot camp and it comes back all, so. But she ends up working really with the parent.
Yeah.
Because when that individual, and we've been there, when we realize what is going on within us and where our experience of life is coming from, when we think it's coming from the outside and we're believing everything that we're seeing and all the way other people are behaving is true and real, and that is affecting us. When we realize that actually we're creating everything from the inside out, those thoughts that we're having about that person are being, created. They're coming through this system, this mind body system, and they're kind of bumping up against things that we've learned that are not acceptable, or we have to change to in some way to make them feel better, or them respect us, or them to do what we want so that we are okay.
Yeah.
And until we kind of see that we are creating our own experience, then it's we then look again outside ways to change the experience, just move it around a bit, or to change
the
things,
content.
change the content in a different way so it feels, oh yeah, okay. So we look in self-help or personal development to just change the mind slightly, to change how we think, and then then we'll feel better and it'll be okay. And oftentimes it does work. We can kind of, it feels really logical, and we can think, yeah, that will work. We've got to go underneath and see what is actually creating, and what is actually the drive, what's driving that.
Yeah. And just going back to what you were saying around how the sort of the parents' expectation on the child based on their conditioning and their understanding of the world. I think it was so interesting, that example that she shared about the little girl that she was working with who didn't have many friends, and her mum thought that was really odd that she didn't have more friends, and she thought it was something about her. That assumption is, she's created that assumption in her mind because, I guess as a society, we've sort of seen, and I mean, it's perpetuated in all films and things like that, isn't it? The kid that doesn't really have many friends is probably a bit weird and no one really likes them. And she's then thinking, gosh, this means something about my child. And then she probably had thinking herself, like, oh gosh, what have I done wrong? Why does she not have any friends? Has it got something to do with me? Blah, blah, am I a bad parent? There's probably all sorts going on for her. And then the innocence of her of, well, she didn't really want any friends. She just liked to go and sit and read. And she was just so, there was nothing on it for her. She was so okay in just
what's going on? Why is it really bothered?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what we were saying around like the beauty of this conversation, obviously from an earlier age. There is just kind of less on things. There's less, obviously, as you get older, there's more and more conditioning and layers that you then move through life with, and then more and more get built up as you experience more and more or interact with, different people or whatever, that those layers just grow and grow and grow. Obviously, you can speak to this more than me, but there's more to almost uncover or break down or dissolve in terms of that conditioning and that identity, because I mean, you've been in the world for a lot longer. So I think, yeah, it's the beauty of this conversation at such an early age. And I think, anyone that works in this space with children is amazing. And I think it's so important that this is heard from such an early age, and how amazing it would be for this to end up in like national curriculum or whatever. I think we've got a long way to go from yet, but yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the thing. If it's not, if we've not had that sort of, because I think, I mean, I've always kind of known that there's something going on that is bigger than me, that I'm not really doing all of it. But when it feels really, when there's something that I feel challenged by, or it's almost like there's something I come up against that feels very heavy, very, I'm fearful of something that, because it feels so personal. Yeah, that is triggering those layers, that identity, those layers of identity that has been built up over the years. And I suppose the longer we've been in life, then, yeah, more and more layers just get added to that, because more and more stories, and the story's never the same. It's always another version of it. But I like what Marie was saying, that, and she talks about it in her book, that, we are this diamond in, we're just sort of so pure. That's all we really are. We are infinite potential. We are pure source of, that's what we are. But it gets covered up and we forget that. And yeah, what you're saying, the older we get, then the more we've forgotten it, because it's just so dense.
Yeah. I mean, the younger we are, the closer we are to it, aren't we? Because that's what
absolutely.
We're born as that. And then there's the conditioning mounts on top. It's obviously, when you're younger, you're closer to that pure essence, almost like the remembering of it, like you've not lost it yet type thing.
Absolutely. But I mean, we do know this, but we see it more when we're sitting on a beach in Bali in the sun and think, this is feel that sort of beautiful feeling of being really grounded and centered, and that feeling of joy and peace. But that is who we are. But we think, oh no, it's because we're sitting on this beach and we're not at work. So we give it a label, we give it a sort of meaning again, but that isn't what we're,
Yeah, exactly. And then I guess those times when you've touched that feeling, because obviously it is who we are, and we know that, and that pure just bliss, I guess, we then want to feel that more and more, but we think it's outside, like we think it's because we're on a beach in Bali. So we try and go on holiday more or whatever, or you sort of say, well, next time I go on holiday, I'll feel that way again, or whatever. And it's, we've talked about in the past how don't really tend to argue with people when you're on holiday, but you think it's because you're on holiday, not because you're just kind of in that state of just grounded presence. And
natural
we think we have to
state.
Yeah, we think we have to do something to go somewhere different or whatever to achieve that. But it's actually here, and it always has been all along. But it's all of these, like the sort of thick fog of all of this conditioning that's just in front of it, and it's clouding that feeling, really.
Yeah. And which is why the self-help and wellness space is absolutely huge, because it's ways of really trying to make us feel better, to feel that bliss, that, joy all the time. Because I don't know, it's like we won't be able to cope. This continuous seeking and trying to feel better is actually, we're going in the wrong direction, because all we have to do is see that that's already there, which is simple, but it's not always easy when there is so much conditioning and so much sort of thought and beliefs that we're clinging hold of. But what Marie also said is we've never ever had a permanent thought, and it's something that kind of makes you sort of just no, because they're completely changing all the time. It's like you can't hold sand in your hand for very long. You can't hold a thought. It's like the clouds in the sky, they're always changing, they're always moving. But we think thoughts they feel so real, and so they make, that they are actually causing such an issue.
Yeah. And we also think that we can control them as well
And we can
change
control them. Yeah. Yeah. They're not ours to change. They're fleeting. They come in and they pass through. And we know that, but the overthinking of the thought, it just keeps everything in place. And
Yeah.
I think, to sort of go veering off track here a bit, but I think as parents, and when we're in that place where it feels as if we can't, everything we do is it's impossible with this child or this teenager. We feel so, incapable of controlling them. And it just escalates. The more we try and do, the more we try and speak to them, the more we try and tell them, the more we try and, because
The more they resist.
the more they resist. Yeah. And gosh, it took it took so long in both to see that I had to make them, see this, or see this, see sense, or whatever, my opinion was at that time, or, of a dangerous situation, or that you can't do that because this, well, yeah, there are certain things that obviously we're not going to allow our children just to do, because it makes sense to help them see that this is a dangerous situation. It's like, where is that coming from? Is that coming from a place of like deep, you're completely grounded yourself, and the words and what you're saying comes out really cleanly and clearly because you're connected with that person? Or is it that you're just completely swept up in your own thoughts and feelings that you're believing to be true in that moment, and it's just coming out as verbal diarrhea? It's just so, there's nothing can change in that moment because there's no connection.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why we talk about this, like reparenting yourself first. And that's obviously the most important part, because your children, and we obviously spoke about this with Marie as well, but your children have this within them too. But I think as a parent, obviously I'm not a parent myself, but an older person or whatever, like you forget that they have all of this, and actually they are probably more in touch with their well within than probably you are if you've lost touch slightly with who you truly are. But they have everything they need within them, that universal, that intelligence. Yeah, just everything, that all the tools and resources, they have that within themselves. But I think I can imagine, as we've been talking about all these layers and layers of conditioning, as you get older, it's that forgetting that you, if you don't know yourself that you have all the tools and resources you need to be fundamentally okay no matter what life brings, how can then you look at your child and think that they have that?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I mean, we always sort of say, well, what is, if there is that space, it's that recognition of what's going on for them, or what am I do that I don't agree with, or whatever, what is the equivalent that's going on for me? What am I doing? So, because it's almost like, well, I've got to clean up my act first, if, because yeah, we see so many people sort of doing things and then you think, well, you're doing similar or whatever yourself. And kids will challenge that, won't they? They'll, well, you're doing that or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, because I'm an adult.
Yeah. But often it's not always the exact same thing, is it? It's just, or it could be in a different context or,
Yeah.
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 But it's not always direct.
Yeah.
I think that's why it's always the hardest to see and understand
To
this, 'cause
see
it's never,
you when you're in it.
yeah. And it's never
You're in
it's
it.
never like a direct equivalent, is it? But it's, yeah, it's often something else, and that's kind of where the resistance is coming from, because you're doing it yourself, but you can't see it.
Yeah. Yeah. It can be seen and things can fall away just naturally without any intervention, really. And it's just seeing what is actually going on, what is driving, the behavior, what we're believing to be true. And when that is seen, it doesn't need to be propped up. The identity doesn't need to be propped up by anything or protected.
Yeah. And Tom and I were actually having quite an interesting conversation about this a couple of weeks ago, and just thinking about that, the conscious parenting from this understanding in the future, and how I will parent knowing what I know, and knowing fundamentally that I have everything I need and they have everything they need. And I think we were talking about something to do with them your child kind of getting carried away and doing something, or wanting to be included or in like the popular cool group. And I think he was training one of his younger clients, and they'd done something, yeah, a bit stupid at school, and because they were trying to impress their mates or whatever. Tom was saying that, well, yeah, obviously you wouldn't be able to stop them from doing that, or feeling like they obviously would want to fit in and be liked and blah blah blah. But I kind of said that, well, obviously if they fundamentally know who they are first and foremost, and that's how they grow up, then they're not necessarily going to need to look for that externally, and that validation from peers, or feeling like they need to feel, obviously, I know we've all got like an innate sense of belonging and wanting to belong, because that goes back to, yeah, our tribal ancestors and survival and everything. So, but if, yeah, I've kind of lost my train of thought, but you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, it's almost like I'm hearing sort of, you've met a group of friends and, and I can sort of resonate with this because I moved schools so many times and it's like I just was desperate to fit in.
Yeah.
And it's easy to be kind of seduced into something they're doing and in, their behaviors, if it's sort of, sort of alcohol or drugs or whatever, you kind of know it's sort of wrong. It's like, well, I want to be like them to belong. But what I'm hearing you say is, it doesn't mean that you don't have to be friends with these people. You just don't have to. There's not that sense of, well, if I don't take these drugs, then they're going to see me as weak or I'm not going to fit in. That won't even kind of register, because it'll be just, well, I don't need to do something to make me feel secure and
yeah, exactly.
better. And I think the more we kind of have that, it's almost like we just know, and it's a sort of, the choices are obvious. The choices are obvious that, well, those people are just not my people, and that's okay. That's okay. I am okay, because there'll be these other people, these other group that I kind of do sort of gel with, or I do get on with better. But it's having that sort of, that very grounded sense of, there is nothing on it. There's no, I don't need to identify as this or that. It's just, this is just me. This is just who I am. My true, who I truly am is hard to see, especially when we have a lot of pressure on us and this isn't the normal conversation.
Yeah.
As you say, if it was, then it might be a different story. Probably wouldn't be, in as much of a crisis as we are in the world. But but it doesn't mean that we don't. It doesn't matter what age we are. We can still see this.
Yeah, exactly.
And when we do see it and realize it's so obvious. It's like, because it is who we are.
Yeah.
It can't be any more or any less than we are. And it is like sort of night and day. Nothing really, changes out that, but we are living life from a different perspective. We have, like I say, there's nothing on it. There's nothing to protect. There's nothing to withdraw from in order to, I'll be okay, if that doesn't even enter the conversation. Or the mind. It's just live life. It's obvious when we're on or off.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, do you have any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Yeah, it was a lovely conversation with Marie, and she does great work. And just more and more, people that are kind of what we call ripple makers, that are sort of, seeing and waking up to who they are, their experience of life, really kind of questioning and being really curious of looking behind the curtain at what is going on is the first step, really, to I love her work. So
it was a lovely conversation.
Great conversation.
Yes. Well, thank you very much for listening, as always, and see you next time.